What's up guys, Backers here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. So yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about Sala again? We're not going to talk about Sala in this video, folks. What we're actually going to talk about is that skill. Yep. Time to enjoy a rouse.
Let the lesson begin.
Alright, so I'm sure many of you probably don't even remember this banner happening at some time last year, because I honestly don't even remember when exactly it was, but that was a Rouse banner, okay? That was units with Rouse skills, although everyone who's probably seen that would probably not assume it's a Rouse banner. You'd think, oh, that's like good fodder, like no C disrupt, no follow-up, solo 4, low attack speed, and you'd be right. That's actually what something like that is. But this video will actually go over the potential of Rouse skills and somewhat of a skill analysis video, I think, is the idea of what we're going to do here. I don't necessarily think it's too bad of a skill. It's just not exciting. Like, there's so many more high impact skills lately in the game. Like, lulls are amazing. You know, no follow-up, no C disrupt. You know exactly how good those skills are. And when you see like Rouse given for free on units like Sala, or you know, given off of 4-star focuses or demotes or something, it's not that exciting. And I don't blame you, because it's just a self buff as long as you're basically solo at the beginning of a turn. Not that exciting, but if you don't exactly remember who has these skills, here's just a refresher on that. So starting at I mean, we basically start with like 5-star exclusives, I think, having it, but we do have Ferdinand with Rouse Speed Defense, a couple of seasonals like Alm and female Chris, I believe. Then we have a bunch of 5-star exclusives, rare stuff that you probably never fodder a Rouse skill for. And of course, as I said, 4-star focuses like Sylvain, although you could pick that up with codes, for example. More recently, we've had Shamir and Ingrid with this, and Winter Bernadetta coming with the more elusive Rouse attack speed, as opposed to the other ones which may be like speed defense or speed rouse. So, I assume that this skill line will become more available as time passes, you know, like maybe a couple of months down the road. It should be given to us fairly for free, or it could end up as like the next seal line, for example. But there are places you can use this, and I will give you some examples of that. Starting with our friendly neighborhood, Nino. And yeah, I mean that legitimately. Okay, so I don't usually talk about PvE strategies, because generally speaking, PvE is not that important, because you can kind of clear PvE with anything. But if there's a great place to use Rouse skills, it's gonna be on Blade Tome users. And you literally do it yourself, Blade Tome users. It doesn't have to be Nino, she just has a preference weapon. So the Ferdinand Rouse Speed Defense is great for this. If you have Fury 4 or Attack Speed Push 4, combine that with Desperation and a Rouse skill, and you have yourself a fairly self-sufficient unit like this. Maybe some Dancers with Wings of Mercy to jump in and keep that roll of boom going. Of course, that's not all. We have Tharja as well, who also has a preference Blade Tome with more HP, maybe less speed or less throughput, I would say. Like, she's not as powerful as Nino, but different color, different favorites, whatever works for you. Rouse attack, res works fine for someone like Tharja, because you're not necessarily overlapping with the even attack wave that Nino has. So that's kind of cool. And finally, everyone forgets, including myself, that Odin has a preference Blade Tome. Now, he is going to want an ally maybe to smite him or shove him or something like that. Or maybe he uses pivot himself and then you have him get danced. And unfortunately, Rouse Defense Res is found on rare units. Like, that fodder is still fairly rare. If you're not going to fodder Legendary Crom for Rouse Defense Res, but if he becomes more available, then you might actually want to consider someone like Odin. Or at least he could buff if he doesn't do, you know, 0 damage every single attack. Well, come on, with a Blade Tome, he's going to do a lot more than that. Blade Tomes have some really high ceiling. But anyways, excluding PvE or do-it-yourself Blade Tomes, what is a cool idea to think about is Rouse skills actually have a decent place in AR defense. And recently released, we have Ingrid, who came with Rouse attack speed. Now, I didn't actually talk about Rouse attack speed myself when talking about Ingrid. I do think Ingrid is a solid user of Rouse and on AR defense as a potential unit, because you have a speed-based fire sweep true damage slaying weapon, and that's great. Most problem units don't have Null C Disrupt, and the ones that do, something like, let's say, Fallen Leon or Christmas Altina, Ingrid has favorable matchups. So the way you would want to use a Rouse skill for someone like Ingrid, and those of you that don't have Ingrid, yes, Death Knight, can potentially use Rouse as well. And a fairly budget build at that. For those of you that don't remember, Death Knight's preference weapon is basically if the enemy has like a buff on it or some sort of rally or whatever, he denies follow-ups. And if you give him a lot of speed, this is also kind of great to deny the follow-ups if the enemy has something like QR. So he outspeeds them, he does a lot of damage, and he has a good preference weapon for this. But sometimes it's hard to visualize something like this, and I wouldn't blame you, between Ingrid and Death Knight. And honestly, you can do this with pretty much any melee cav. I mean, you could probably do this with Elwood, or Roderick, or Frederick, or whatever. I'm not going to cover every single melee cav, but melee cavs I feel are great for this purpose, so that they can pretty much either work off of a rally trap, or just a dance after they move with no assist. That's the favorable ways to do it, I would think so. A layout like this. So that layout there is just a sample. I created it very quickly, just like, you can definitely improve it, but I want to give you guys some ideas here, right? So you have that range cav in front, you got your dancers, you got the Duma catapult combo, recently released zeros. And essentially what this would do here is kind of get like Death Knight to overlap range with someone like Wrath. You might have someone like Duel Thune or just an armor in general who would be the 7th unit and would be the one with maybe like far save or near save, whatever you feel gives you more trouble. But the idea here is Donkey Kong Death Knight is by himself, or Ingrid, or whatever melee cav you choose, and if something like Wrath gets baited out, Death Knight is going to follow up, post dance off of Racin, and hopefully do some damage. Again, any sort of cav, melee cav goes well with this, but blue covers green well, which is why Death Knight plus Wrath works fine. And yeah, maybe it'll get you thinking on some cool layouts. I feel it has some potential and can give a lot of people trouble. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about with Rouse skills in this video, to be totally honest with you guys. It's not the most exciting of skills, but self-buffs are good if they're not panicked, right? Panic is their biggest counterplay, but the beauty is if you are, let's say, self-buffing using a Rouse skill, which otherwise, like, your C skill on Death Knight here won't really be that much better. It could be close guard, could be distant guard, but it's only going to hit 2 units. He's not centralized like Duel Thune would be, so realistically, a Rouse skill can give you some free stats. The panic falls off post-dance, and that potentially gives you the sort of bulk or damage, depending on which Rouse skill you use, to potentially swing a matchup in your favor, right? So yeah, that's all. That's really all it is for Rouse, guys. If you enjoy these skill analysis videos and they get you thinking, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Give a video a thumbs up. And with that being said, subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in the next one. Much love. Peace.
It's over.